Alex lived in Willow Creek, a small town surrounded by green hills and calm waters. The town was quiet and peaceful, with friendly neighbors who smiled at each other and shared small joys. But the real treasure of the town in Alex's eyes was the lake. The lake stretched wide, reflecting the sky like a mirror, and its waters were clear and fresh. People came to the lake to fish, to swim, and to relax. Alex spent many days near the shore, enjoying the sound of birds and the gentle waves. Near his house, a small wooden bridge connected two parts of the lake. On one side, the houses and streets of the town. On the other, green fields and trails that led to the hills. The bridge was old but strong. It was the kind of bridge that had character. The planks were slightly worn, the ropes slightly frayed, but it had stood there for decades without ever failing. Alex had walked across it hundreds of times. He remembered childhood days when he ran across it with friends, laughing, trying to balance on the wooden rails. Later, he had walked there with his little sister, helping her step carefully over the uneven boards. The bridge was more than wood and nails. It was a place of memories, a place of connection. One morning, Alex woke early as usual. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the lake with soft pink and orange shades. Birds sang in the trees, and the air smelled of wet grass and water. Alex stretched and stepped outside, ready for his morning walk. But as he approached the bridge, he stopped in shock. The bridge was gone. In its place were piles of broken wood, sawdust, and large machines parked on the shore. The sound of chainsaws and hammers echoed across the lake. Heavy construction vehicles had torn down the bridge, leaving only empty space where it once connected the two sides. Alex's heart sank. He couldn't understand why anyone would do this without warning. Who could have done this? He muttered, walking closer. He noticed a small sign planted on the ground. It read, "Bridge removed by Willow Creek HOA, unsafe structure." Alex's hands trembled slightly as he read the words. Unsafe? The bridge had never failed. He had crossed it many times just last week. He remembered the sturdy planks, the secure ropes, the sound of water flowing under it. The bridge had been perfectly safe. The HOA, the Homeowners Association, controlled much of the land near the lake. They were responsible for the resort, which had been built on the opposite shore. The resort was expensive, with tall buildings, fancy rooms, and private docks. Alex had visited once. It was beautiful, but it felt disconnected from the town. Now it seemed that the HOA had demolished the bridge to make way for their expansion. Alex felt a wave of anger and frustration. He walked along the shore, examining the piles of wood and the tracks left by the machines. He thought about the memories tied to the bridge, the family picnics, the quiet walks, the moments of peace. And he thought about the people of Willow Creek who relied on that bridge to cross the lake safely. He clenched his fists. They can't just take everything, he whispered. Alex went back to his house and called his sister. Mia. She was younger but clever and brave. Mia. The bridge is gone, he said, trying to keep his voice calm. The HOA tore it down this morning. Mia gasped, quiet for a moment. Are you serious? She asked. Why would they do that? Did they give any warning? No warning, Alex replied. They just decided to destroy it. I think it's because of the resort. They want to expand and the bridge was in their way. Mia frowned. That's not fair. The bridge belongs to the town, not just to them. Alex nodded. Exactly. And I think we need to do something. Not by fighting with them directly, they are rich and powerful, but by making them understand that what they did was wrong. The next few days were hard. Alex tried to speak with the HOA members, but they dismissed him. The bridge was unsafe, they said. We have the right to remove it. They smiled politely, but their eyes were cold. Their resort plans had taken priority over the town, and they showed no concern for the people or the history of Willow Creek. Alex felt powerless at first. He walked along the shore, watching the lake ripple in the wind. He remembered his childhood dreams of adventures, of clever plans and heroic acts. Maybe, he thought. This was his chance to make a difference, to protect something important, and to teach a lesson about fairness and respect. He spent hours thinking and observing the lake. He noticed the small dam upstream, which controlled the flow of water. Normally it was quiet, letting the lake maintain its shape and keeping the water calm, but Alex realized that the dam could also redirect the water if handled carefully. If someone released it at the right time, the lake could rise temporarily, reaching the shore of the resort. It was not about destruction, Alex decided. It was about showing the HOA that nature and fairness could not be ignored. He sketched the lake, the dam, the paths of water, and the location of the resort. Every detail mattered: how fast the water could flow, where it could reach, and how to ensure no one got hurt. Alex wanted the HOA to understand the cost of their arrogance, but he did not want to harm anyone. His plan had to be clever, precise, and safe. Each evening, Alex studied the lake from his window. He watched the sunlight glitter on the water, the birds dipping and flying, and the gentle waves brushing the shore. He imagined how the water could rise, reaching the resort, sending a message of respect and caution. The idea excited him, but it also frightened him. It was risky. Alex also talked to some neighbors discreetly. No one else had crossed the bridge that morning, but everyone had noticed the demolition. Some were angry, some were sad, and some were too afraid to speak. Alex realized that the town needed someone to act. Someone needed to defend the bridge, not just for wood and nails, but for the memories, the connection, and the spirit of Willow Creek. He spent nights preparing quietly. He studied how to release the dam without causing harm. He tested small channels of water, observing how fast it flowed. He made tools from simple materials: ropes, levers, and wooden beams. Every step was calculated. He imagined the morning when the HOA would arrive at the resort and find water where they expected dry land. It was not revenge. It was a lesson. One evening, his sister Mia joined him. "Alex, you are serious about this," she said, looking at the sketches and tools. "I am," Alex replied. "But it has to be safe. No one gets hurt. I just want them to understand they can't destroy what belongs to the town without consequences." Mia nodded. "Then I will help. We will make sure it is clever, not dangerous. We will protect the town and the lake." For the next few days, they worked in secret. They checked the dam, measured the lake, and prepared the mechanism. Alex felt more alive than ever. Every plank, every rope, every measurement mattered. The plan was almost ready. On the last night before the action, Alex walked to the shore alone. The moon reflected on the water and the air was calm. He touched the wooden posts of the old bridge, now broken and wet from rain. "I will make this right," he whispered. "Not for revenge, but for justice, for the town, and for the memories that matter." He looked at the resort across the lake. The buildings were tall and shining, but to Alex they represented more than wealth. They represented carelessness, arrogance, and disrespect for the town. Tomorrow he would act. Tomorrow the lake would speak for him. The night passed slowly. Alex barely slept. He dreamed of rushing water, of the lake stretching wide, of the resort being surprised by the power of what had been ignored. But he also dreamed of his neighbors smiling again, of the town being safe, and of the bridge being remembered, not just as wood, but as a symbol of care and respect. Morning arrived. The sun rose over Willow Creek, shining on the lake and the hills. Alex felt the excitement and fear of the moment. Today, the town would see that one person, acting with care, courage, and intelligence, could make a difference. The bridge may have been destroyed, but the spirit of Willow Creek was alive in Alex, in Mia, and in everyone who valued what was right. With careful steps, Alex approached the dam, ready to begin the first act of his plan. The morning was quiet at Willow Creek, but Alex felt a storm of thoughts inside him. The broken bridge haunted his mind, and the memory of the HOA's cold smiles fueled his determination. He knew he could not confront them directly. They had wealth, influence, and power, while he had only his courage, his mind, and the love for his town. Alex stood at the edge of the lake, studying the calm water as if it held the answers. The reflection of the sun glittered on the surface, and tiny waves lapped gently at the shore. He thought of the dam upstream, the key to his plan. It was small, almost forgotten, but it could redirect the flow of water if handled correctly. The idea had grown in his mind for days. He needed precision, patience, and care. One mistake could be disastrous. Mia appeared beside him, holding a small notebook. Her eyes were bright with excitement and concern. "Alex, are you sure about this?" she asked quietly. "We need to be careful. We can't hurt anyone and we can't get caught." Alex nodded. "I know. That is why we prepared for days. I've studied the dam, the water, the lake, and the resort. If we act carefully, we can send a message without harming anyone. The HOA needs to understand that they cannot destroy what belongs to the town." Mia smiled faintly. "Then let's make it work." They walked together along the shore, discussing every detail of the plan. Alex explained how the dam worked, how the gates could be released slowly to control the water, and how the lake could rise just enough to reach the resort's edge. He showed Mia the sketches he had made, marking the paths of water, the low points along the shore, and the safest areas to avoid people or animals. They spent the morning inspecting the dam. The structure was old but sturdy. Wooden beams held the water back and metal levers controlled the flow. Alex tested each part carefully, making sure nothing would break unexpectedly. Mia assisted by recording measurements and timing how long it took for small amounts of water to move downstream. They worked silently, the only sounds being the creaking of the wood, the gentle water, and the occasional bird flying overhead. By noon, they had mapped out a full plan. The lake could rise just enough to reach the resort's waterfront without causing danger. Boats tied to docks would float safely, and any equipment at the resort could be moved quickly if necessary. They even considered the animals, ducks, fish, and turtles, and how to avoid disturbing them. Alex felt a surge of confidence. The plan was not about destruction. It was about fairness, about sending a clear message that arrogance came with consequences. After lunch, Alex and Mia gathered supplies. Ropes, wooden beams, a few pulleys, and tools were placed in a small cart. They did not need much. Everything was simple and practical. Alex checked everything twice. "We need precision," he said. "One mistake and the plan fails. Or worse, someone gets hurt. We can't allow that," Mia nodded. "We will be careful. We know what we are doing." The next few days were spent in preparation. Each evening, they returned to the dam to test the levers and channels, learning how fast water could flow and how it could be controlled. Alex kept a journal, noting every measurement, every angle, and every observation. They even marked points along the shore where the water would reach first, imagining the resort owners arriving and seeing the result. One afternoon, Alex walked along the lakeside trail alone. He watched the resort from a distance. It was grand, with white walls, shiny windows, and boats tied neatly to the docks. From his position, he could see the landscaping, the gardens, and the tall buildings reaching toward the sky. The resort looked untouchable, almost arrogant in its perfection. But Alex knew its weakness, the connection to the lake, the very element they had ignored. He thought about the HOA members, walking through their halls, confident and smug. They had ignored the town, the bridge, and the memories of Willow Creek. They had chosen their wealth over fairness. Alex clenched his fists. "They will understand," he whispered. "Not because of anger, but because fairness matters. Respect matters." When he returned home, Mia was waiting with a small map she had drawn. "Look at this," she said. "I marked the exact time it will take for the water to reach the resort, if we release it carefully. We can control everything." Alex examined the map. "Perfect. That is exactly what we need. We will act when the town is calm and the resort staff is away. That way we avoid danger and still send the message clearly." That evening they checked the dam one last time. The moon reflected on the water, giving the lake a silver glow. Everything was quiet, except for the soft rustle of leaves and the gentle lapping of water. Alex felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. The moment was near and he knew he had to remain calm, focused, and precise. Mia placed a hand on his shoulder. "Are you ready?" she asked. Alex nodded. "I am. It is time to protect the town and the lake. We do this carefully, wisely, and safely. That is our promise." Night fell, and with it came a sense of quiet anticipation. The town slept, unaware of the plan unfolding quietly upstream. Alex and Mia approached the dam under the cover of darkness, carrying their tools and equipment. They moved silently, careful not to disturb the night or alert anyone nearby. The dam was more impressive at close range than Alex had remembered. The wooden beams were thick, the metal levers strong, and the water behind it calm but full of potential energy. He took a deep breath and began his work. Step by step, Alex and Mia set up the levers, ropes, and pulleys. They tested each movement carefully, making sure the water would flow at the right speed and in the right direction. Alex counted each second, measured each movement, and adjusted everything precisely. Mia assisted by holding ropes, taking notes, and making sure no detail was overlooked. Hours passed, but they worked tirelessly. The plan was no longer just an idea. It was becoming reality. The lake waited silently behind the dam, full of potential, ready to act when released. Alex felt a surge of pride. They had prepared carefully, thought of every detail, and respected the lake and the town in the process. Finally, as the first hints of dawn colored the sky, Alex was ready. He looked at Mia. "This is it," he said softly. "We release it slowly, just enough to send the message, nothing more." Mia nodded. "Slow, steady, safe. We do this together." Alex took a deep breath and pulled the first lever. Water trickled out, gentle at first, then stronger as it flowed down the channels they had prepared. The lake began to rise subtly, following the path they had calculated. Mia watched the gauges and markings carefully, signaling to Alex when to adjust the flow. Step by step, the water moved downstream, following the trails and low points of the shore. It was not a flood. It was a controlled, careful surge, designed to reach the resort's edge without causing danger. Alex felt his heart pound. The plan was working perfectly. From a distance, Alex could see the resort. Slowly, the water reached the lawns, wetting the grass and touching the edges of the docks. Boats floated gently, swaying in the current. The grand gardens glistened with water, but nothing was destroyed. The resort staff had not yet arrived and no one was in harm's way. Alex smiled quietly. The message was clear. The HOA had ignored the town and the bridge, and now they would see the consequences of arrogance. Nature, controlled carefully and wisely, had made the point. Mia looked at him, eyes shining. "It's working," she whispered. "It's perfect. They will understand now." Alex nodded. "Yes, this is not revenge. It is fairness. It is a lesson they needed." They watched as the lake continued its careful rise, reaching the resort's edge fully. Boats floated safely, gardens were wet but unharmed, and the building stood tall, untouched but surprised by the sudden approach of the water. Alex felt a sense of justice, calm and steady. As the sun rose fully, the town began to wake. Birds flew across the sky and the lake shimmered in the morning light. The HOA members arriving at the resort were shocked to see water reaching the shores and floating gently along the docks. Their perfect resort, their wealth, their arrogance, had been reminded of the power of care, respect, and preparation. Alex and Mia stepped back from the dam, watching quietly. They had done what was necessary. The town would notice, the message would spread, and the bridge would not be forgotten. Willow Creek would remain safe, respected, and connected by the memories it held. Alex took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility and the lightness of accomplishment. They had acted wisely, carefully, and with courage. The broken bridge had sparked something bigger than wood and nails. It had sparked action, intelligence, and a lesson that would not be ignored. Mia smiled at him. "We did it," she said softly. Alex nodded, watching the lake sparkle in the sunlight. "Yes, we did it. And the town will remember why fairness and respect always matter." The water continued to settle, slowly returning to its normal rhythm. The lake had spoken, and the town had listened. Alex knew the next days would bring reactions, questions, and perhaps anger from the HOA, but he also knew one thing clearly. Justice had been served, and Willow Creek was safe once more. The morning sun shone brightly over Willow Creek, painting the lake in shades of gold and silver. Alex stood on the shore, watching the water ripple gently. The lake, calm and serene, held a power few truly understood. It had been quiet for centuries, but today, it was about to send a message that could not be ignored. After days of preparation, testing, and planning, Alex felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had acted carefully so far, ensuring that no one would be harmed and that the town remained safe. The HOA would soon see the consequences of their arrogance, and the lake would speak for itself. Mia joined him at the dam. Her face reflected determination and a spark of adventure. "Alex," she said, "are you ready? This is the moment we have been preparing for." Alex nodded. "Yes, every calculation, every test, every detail is in place. We just need to be precise." The two of them approached the dam, carrying only the essential tools and ropes. The night had been quiet, and the town was still asleep, giving them the perfect opportunity. Alex examined the levers and wooden beams, checking each connection one last time. Mia held a small lantern, casting a gentle light on the dam's structure. Slowly, Alex pulled the first lever. Water trickled out, moving gently at first, just enough to test the channel. Mia watched carefully as the water began to flow downstream. The lake responded exactly as they had predicted. Alex allowed himself a small smile. Everything was going according to plan. He pulled the second lever and the water began to rise more quickly. The lake's surface shimmered as it surged forward, filling the channels and low points they had identified. The motion was controlled and steady, not chaotic. Alex and Mia worked in perfect coordination, adjusting the flow with ropes and pulleys. They had calculated every angle, every speed, and every turn. From a distance, the resort looked peaceful, unaware of the approaching water. Its white walls gleamed in the morning light, and boats rested on their docks as if nothing had changed. But Alex knew that would not last long. The carefully directed surge from the lake would soon reach the shore, and the resort would feel the power of nature. As the water moved, Alex observed its progress. The lawns began to glisten with moisture, the docks lifted slightly as boats floated gently, and the gardens shimmered with the reflection of sunlight. It was not destruction. It was a statement, a lesson about respect and balance. Mia's eyes widened as she watched the water approach the resort. "Alex, it's working perfectly," she whispered. "They will understand now," Alex nodded. "Yes, but we must remain focused. We need to make sure everything stays safe. No one should get hurt. The message must be clear, not dangerous." They continued to monitor the flow, adjusting the levers carefully. The lake responded beautifully, moving exactly where they wanted it to go. Birds took flight above the water, and the gentle waves reflected the morning sun. The lake, once calm and quiet, now carried purpose. Meanwhile, the first HOA staff began to arrive at the resort. They were surprised to see water reaching the lawns and floating gently along the docks. Phones rang and voices called out in confusion. The staff ran along the edges, tying boats and moving equipment to higher ground. Alex watched from a safe distance, hidden among the trees along the shore. He felt a mix of satisfaction and calm. The plan was working without causing harm. The resort was intact, but the message was clear. The HOA had ignored the town, the bridge, and the memories of Willow Creek. Now they were seeing the consequences of their decisions. As the morning progressed, more staff arrived. They tried to assess the situation, but the water continued to flow in a controlled manner. Gardens were wet, but flowers were unharmed. The boats floated safely. The resort buildings were untouched, but the edges of the property were clearly affected. From the shore, Alex could see the HOA members arriving. Their faces were a mix of shock, anger, and disbelief. They had never imagined that someone could act with intelligence and precision to protect the town. Their perfect resort was safe, but their arrogance had been challenged. One of the HOA leaders, Mr. Carlton, shouted orders to his staff. "Move the water back. Call engineers. This is unacceptable." Alex watched silently, knowing that the message had been delivered. The HOA had assumed they could act without consequences, but nature, guided by careful preparation, had reminded them that balance and respect mattered more than wealth. Mia whispered to Alex, "They will never forget this." "They will understand now," Alex nodded. "Yes, but we need to maintain control. The water must return slowly and nothing should be damaged. The lesson is enough." The two of them adjusted the levers carefully, controlling the flow so the water remained steady. The lake continued to rise gently at the resort's edge, then stabilized. Boats floated calmly, gardens shimmered, and the buildings stood tall. The HOA staff tried to manage the situation, but it was clear that their perfect control had been challenged. Meanwhile, word spread through Willow Creek. Neighbors began to notice the unusual water levels near the resort. Some came to watch from a distance, curious and amazed. They whispered about the cleverness of the person who had acted to protect the town. Alex stayed hidden, observing the reactions without revealing himself. By midday, the situation reached its peak. The water had reached the maximum level they had calculated, touching every low point along the resort's property. The boats were gently floating, the lawns were wet, and the gardens reflected the sunlight. The HOA had no choice but to acknowledge the effect of the lake's surge. Alex felt a sense of calm pride. The plan had worked perfectly. It had been risky, but careful preparation, intelligence, and respect for nature had ensured safety and effectiveness. The HOA had been taught a lesson in fairness without harm, and the town had witnessed the power of thoughtful action. Mia smiled at him, her eyes bright with satisfaction. "We did it, Alex. The town will remember this." Alex nodded. "Yes, the lake spoke for us. The bridge may be gone, but the lesson remains. Respect and fairness matter more than wealth and arrogance." As the sun climbed higher, the water began to flow back naturally. Alex and Mia guided the last adjustments, ensuring a controlled return. The lake settled once more, calm and reflective. The resort remained standing, intact, but the HOA staff had seen the result of ignoring the town. Mr. Carlton and his team looked around in disbelief. They understood that their actions had consequences, even when they thought themselves untouchable. The lake, guided by careful planning and courage, had delivered a message they would never forget. Alex and Mia returned to the shore quietly, their task complete. They had acted with intelligence, care, and courage. The broken bridge had sparked a chain of events that reminded everyone in Willow Creek of the importance of fairness and respect. The town began to wake fully. Neighbors discussed the unusual water levels, the clever plan that must have been behind it, and the lesson the HOA had received. Alex remained calm, observing quietly, satisfied that justice had been served without harm. By evening, the lake had returned to its natural rhythm. The sun set over Willow Creek, casting a golden glow across the water. Alex stood by the shore, watching the reflections of the hills and trees. He felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The town was safe, the message had been delivered, and the bridge would not be forgotten. Mia joined him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We did the right thing," she said softly. Alex smiled. "Yes, and we did it wisely. The town, the lake, and the memories remain safe. That is what matters." As night fell, the stars reflected on the calm lake, reminding Alex that careful action, intelligence, and respect could achieve more than anger or force ever could. Willow Creek would remember this day, not for destruction but for the courage, cleverness, and care of two people who refused to let injustice go unchallenged. The bridge may have been gone, but its spirit remained alive in the town, in the lake, and in Alex's heart. And the HOA had learned, in a way they could never ignore, that nature, fairness, and respect were forces stronger than wealth or arrogance. Alex knew this was only the beginning. The next days would bring challenges, reactions, and perhaps attempts to undo what had been done. But he was ready. The lake had spoken, the town had seen, and justice had been delivered carefully, wisely, and without harm. As he walked home with Mia, Alex felt the calm determination of someone who had acted not out of anger, but out of love for his town and his community. Willow Creek was safe, the lesson was clear, and the bridge, though physically gone, would forever remain in memory as a symbol of courage and fairness. The morning after the lake surged, Willow Creek was buzzing with talk. Neighbors gathered near the shore, pointing at the water still lapping gently along the resort's edge. No one had seen the person behind the clever action, but everyone felt the impact. The town whispered about the courage it took to act, the intelligence it required, and the care shown to avoid harm. Alex and Mia stayed home that morning, watching from a distance. They wanted to see how the HOA would respond. The resort's owners and staff had arrived earlier than usual, running along the water's edge, trying to salvage what they could. Boats floated safely, gardens glistened with water, and lawns were wet but undamaged. The HOA team looked frustrated, their voices raised in anger and disbelief. "Who could have done this?" Mr. Carlton, the HOA president, shouted, his face red with frustration. No one had access to the dam. No one could have acted so precisely. A young staff member spoke nervously. "Sir, the water came in a controlled way. Nothing is broken. It looks deliberate but careful." Mr. Carlton's eyes narrowed. "Careful or not, this is unacceptable. Find out who is responsible. I want names, I want explanations, and I want results. No one undermines the HOA in Willow Creek." Alex and Mia exchanged quiet smiles from the trees along the shore. The message had been delivered. The HOA's arrogance had been challenged not through destruction, but through intelligence and clever planning. The town had been respected and the lake had spoken. Meanwhile, neighbors began to gather closer. Some walked along the lake, noticing the wet lawns and floating boats. Some whispered about how someone must have acted to control the water. Older residents remembered the old bridge and its importance, nodding in approval at the subtle reminder that nature and community mattered more than greed. A local journalist, Mrs. Harper, arrived later in the morning. She had been following Willow Creek's story for years, writing small articles about town events and environmental concerns. Seeing the unusual water at the resort, she began taking notes and photos. "This is remarkable," she said aloud. "The water seems intentional. It is controlled and safe, but it reaches the resort's edge as if someone wanted to make a statement. Neighbors gathered around her, nodding. Yes, one man said. The HOA thought they could act without consequences. The bridge is gone, but someone reminded them that the town and the lake are more than just resources to be controlled. Alex and Mia stayed hidden, observing the crowd. They did not need recognition. Their satisfaction came from knowing the lesson had been delivered and the town had witnessed it. By noon, the HOA had called in engineers to assess the water's effect. They studied the lake, the dam, and the flow channels. Their reports were cautious. No permanent damage, one engineer said. The water rose and receded safely. Whoever controlled this did so with knowledge of the lake's behavior. Mr. Carlton frowned deeply. I want answers, he said. We cannot let someone manipulate the lake or the town like this. Alex felt a twinge of nervousness. He had acted carefully, but the HOA's reaction was predictable. They would investigate, question, and search for someone to blame. He knew the importance of staying cautious while ensuring the town remained safe. Later that afternoon, a group of town council members arrived at the scene. They spoke with neighbors, observed the water, and reviewed the engineer's reports. The council members were impressed by the clever planning evident in the water's movement. Council member Mr. Lewis spoke to the group. It is clear that whoever acted here understood the lake, the dam, and the town. No one was harmed and no property was destroyed. This is an intelligent act to protect Willow Creek and remind the HOA of their responsibilities. Neighbors nodded. Exactly, one woman said. We may not know who did it, but they defended our town and our memories. The bridge may be gone, but its spirit lives on. The HOA team grew increasingly frustrated. Their attempts to find the person behind the action were unsuccessful. Security cameras revealed no one near the dam at night. The gates and locks were intact and no forced entry was visible. Mr. Carlton clenched his fists. This is not over, he muttered. Someone will be held accountable. We will rebuild, we will reinforce, and we will regain control. No one undermines the HOA in Willow Creek. Alex and Mia remained quiet, observing the reactions from a safe distance. They knew that the next days would bring challenges, complaints, and perhaps attempts to undo what had been done. But they also knew that the lesson had been delivered clearly, and the town had seen the outcome. In the following hours, town residents began to take small actions. Volunteers helped with minor cleanup along the lakeshore, moved floating debris, and ensured wildlife was safe. Ducks swam calmly near the wet lawns. Fish swam in clear channels and turtles appeared along the edges of the water. The lake had caused no harm but reminded everyone that balance and respect were important. Children who had played near the bridge now ran along the shoreline, curious about the story behind the sudden rise of water. Parents told them about the importance of community, respect for nature, and standing up for what is right. Alex and Mia watched quietly from behind the trees, smiling at the sight of the town, learning from the event without realizing the full story. By evening, Mr. Carlton gathered his team. We need to repair the resort, he said firmly. We cannot let this happen again. Reinforce the shore, check the dam, and monitor the lake continuously. Someone has outsmarted us, but we will regain control. An engineer spoke cautiously. Sir, the lake caused no damage and the water receded naturally. It is not possible to prevent an event like this without controlling nature itself. Perhaps the focus should be on respecting the lake rather than trying to dominate it. Mr. Carlton's eyes narrowed. I don't care. Control is what matters. We cannot allow a town or lake to challenge our authority. Find a solution. Alex and Mia listened from a distance. They understood that the HOA would continue to resist, but the lesson had been delivered. The arrogance of wealth and power had met the intelligence and courage of someone who loved their town. That night, Alex and Mia walked along the lakeshore. The moon reflected on the calm water, and the town slept quietly. Alex looked at the empty spot where the bridge once stood. The bridge is gone, he said softly, but the town is stronger. People have seen that they matter more than wealth or power. Mia nodded. Yes, and the HOA will remember. They may resist, but they cannot ignore what has happened. Justice does not always come from force. Sometimes it comes from intelligence and care. Over the next few days, the HOA tried small measures to regain control. Staff monitored the lake. Engineers reinforced minor points along the shore and security cameras were checked repeatedly. But no one could recreate the precision and intelligence of Alex's plan. Meanwhile, the town began to celebrate the courage it had witnessed. Local businesses shared stories of the lake's surge. Neighbors spoke about the importance of standing up for the town, and children played near the shore, imagining clever plans and heroic acts. The broken bridge became a symbol of resilience, memory, and community. Alex and Mia continued to observe quietly. They did not seek praise or recognition. Their satisfaction came from knowing that fairness and respect had been defended. The HOA's arrogance had been challenged, and the town had seen the lesson clearly. By the end of the week, the lake had returned fully to its normal state. Boats rested on the docks, gardens were dry and blooming, and the resort building stood untouched. The HOA had spent time and resources to secure their property, but the lesson remained. Alex and Mia had acted with intelligence, precision, and care, proving that courage and cleverness could challenge even wealth and power. Alex stood on the shore one evening, watching the sun set over the lake. The water shimmered in gold and pink, and the hills reflected in its calm surface. He felt a sense of accomplishment, pride, and peace. The town was safe, the message had been delivered, and the bridge, though gone, lived on in memory. Mia joined him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We did well," she said softly. Alex smiled. "Yes, and we will continue to watch over Willow Creek. The bridge may be gone physically, but the spirit of fairness, respect, and courage remains. That is what matters most." The town had learned a powerful lesson. The HOA's arrogance had been challenged without harm, the lake had been respected, and the community had grown stronger. Alex and Mia knew that future challenges might come, but they had proven that intelligence, courage, and careful planning could achieve more than force or wealth ever could. As the night deepened, stars reflected on the calm lake. Willow Creek slept peacefully, unaware of the quiet heroes who had acted to protect it. Alex and Mia walked home slowly, knowing that the bridge, the lake, and the town were safe. The lesson had been delivered, and the town had grown stronger in spirit. Justice, intelligence, and care had won, and Willow Creek would remember this day for years to come. The bridge may have been demolished, but its memory and the courage it inspired would never be forgotten. The days following the lake's surge were filled with discussion, reflection, and change. Willow Creek had witnessed something extraordinary. The town had seen the power of careful planning, courage, and intelligence. And though no one had seen the person behind the clever act, everyone felt the impact. Alex and Mia continued to observe quietly. The lake had returned to its calm state, but its message remained. The HOA, still frustrated and embarrassed, had begun to realize that their wealth and influence could not guarantee respect. Nature, community, and careful planning mattered just as much, if not more. Mr. Carlton, the president of the HOA, was angry but thoughtful. He called a meeting with his staff and engineers. "We have underestimated this town and the people who care for it," he admitted reluctantly. "We cannot control everything with money or rules alone. There is intelligence, courage, and respect in Willow Creek that we ignored." His staff exchanged uneasy glances. Some were still angry, some embarrassed, and some began to reconsider their actions. For the first time, the HOA realized that being part of a community meant more than controlling property or imposing plans. It meant listening, respecting, and caring. Meanwhile, the town council took action. They held meetings with residents discussing how to rebuild trust, protect natural resources, and ensure that the lake and the town were treated fairly. Alex and Mia followed the developments closely, pleased to see that their efforts had sparked real change. One afternoon, the council gathered at the lakeshore. They invited engineers, neighbors, and local volunteers to discuss plans for rebuilding the bridge in a safe and permanent way. The town wanted the bridge to be more than a structure of wood and nails. They wanted it to symbolize connection, respect, and community spirit. Councilmember Mr. Lewis addressed the crowd. "The bridge may have been destroyed, but the spirit it represented cannot be taken. We will rebuild it carefully, safely, and with the help of the community. This is a lesson in fairness, courage, and respect for nature and each other." Neighbors nodded and applauded. Volunteers offered their help. Local carpenters and engineers brought materials and plans. Even children joined in small ways, carrying tools, painting signs, and helping with minor tasks. The town felt united, and Alex felt pride in seeing his community come together. Back at the resort, the HOA faced consequences. They had spent money and time repairing minor damages and reinforcing the shore, The engineers' reports showed that the lake's surge had been carefully controlled. However, the HOA also faced scrutiny from local authorities. They were warned that future attempts to manipulate nature or ignore community spaces could result in fines or legal action. Mr. Carlton, still frustrated but calmer, finally addressed his staff. "We must respect this town," he said. "We cannot act without thinking of the consequences. The bridge, the lake, and the town are not ours to control. We have learned a difficult lesson." Alex watched from a distance, satisfied. The HOA had learned something they could not ignore. Wealth and power alone did not grant respect. Careful planning, courage, and intelligence could challenge even the most arrogant. In the following weeks, the town worked together to rebuild the bridge. It was stronger than before, with sturdy wooden planks, reinforced supports, and safety measures. The construction process became a symbol of unity. Neighbors who had never spoken before worked side by side. Children learned about engineering, measurement, and teamwork. Alex and Mia participated quietly, offering guidance and encouragement without revealing their full involvement in the lake incident. The completed bridge stood tall and proud. Its wooden planks reflected the sun, and the ropes and beams were polished and strong. Residents crossed it with smiles, sharing memories of the old bridge and the story of the lake's surge. It became more than a structure. It became a symbol of courage, intelligence, and respect. The HOA, humbled by the experience, made small but meaningful changes. They agreed to consult the town before making decisions about natural spaces or community property. Staff members received training on environmental awareness and community relations. Mr. Carlton himself admitted that he had learned the importance of listening and respecting the people and the land. Alex and Mia felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. Their actions had protected Willow Creek, defended the memories of the bridge, and reminded the town and the HOA of the importance of fairness. They had done it without harm, without anger, and with careful planning. The lake had spoken through them, delivering a lesson of respect and balance. The town held a small celebration to mark the reopening of the bridge. Families walked across it together, children ran along its planks, and neighbors shared stories of Willow Creek's past. Alex and Mia observed quietly, their hearts full of pride. They had not acted for recognition, but the town's happiness was reward enough. Local schools incorporated the story into lessons about courage, intelligence, and environmental care. Teachers spoke about the importance of careful planning, thinking ahead, and respecting the community and nature. Students drew pictures of the lake, the bridge, and the clever plan that had reminded the town of these values. Even the wildlife seemed to appreciate the calm return of the lake. Ducks swam peacefully, fish moved freely, and turtles basked on the rocks. The town had ensured that the water's flow had been gentle and safe, reflecting the care that Alex and Mia had taken. As weeks turned into months, Willow Creek returned to its quiet, peaceful routine. The bridge connected the town once more, the resort remained standing, and the lake flowed calmly under the sun. But the memory of the lake's surge and the lesson it delivered remained alive. People spoke about it with admiration, sharing stories of clever planning, courage, and respect for future generations. Alex and Mia continued to visit the bridge and the lake. They walked along the shore, watching the water ripple in the sunlight. Alex often thought about the events of that week, the anger at the broken bridge, the careful planning at the dam, and the precise release of water. It had been risky but necessary. Mia spoke quietly one afternoon. "Alex, we did more than protect the town. We reminded everyone that courage and intelligence can make a difference, even against power and arrogance." Alex smiled. "Yes, and we did it carefully. No one was hurt, the town was safe, and the message was clear. That is what mattered most." The HOA, now aware of their limitations, adjusted their approach. They built stronger relationships with the town council and neighbors. They consulted before making any decisions, especially regarding natural spaces like the lake. Their resort remained, but their arrogance had diminished. They had learned that respect, fairness, and community mattered more than unchecked expansion. Alex and Mia became quiet heroes in Willow Creek. No one knew exactly who had orchestrated the lake's surge, but everyone knew that courage and intelligence had protected their town. The story spread beyond Willow Creek, inspiring nearby communities to value fairness, respect, and careful planning. The bridge, once broken and destroyed, now stood as a symbol of connection, community, and the triumph of intelligence over arrogance. People crossed it with pride, remembering the lesson of the lake, the importance of caring for one another and the value of standing up for what is right. On a peaceful evening, Alex and Mia sat on the shore watching the sun set over the lake. The water reflected golden orange, calm and steady. Alex looked at the bridge and then at the distant resort. "It is done," he said softly. "Willow Creek is safe, the lesson is learned, and the town has grown stronger." Mia nodded. "Yes, the bridge is more than wooden nails. It is courage, intelligence, and respect. The lake spoke through us, and the town heard it." Alex smiled, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. Their careful planning, courage, and intelligence had ensured that justice was served without harm. The town, the lake, and the memories of the bridge were safe. Willow Creek would continue to thrive, united by the lessons learned from the lake and the actions of two thoughtful and brave individuals. As night fell, the stars reflected on the calm waters. Willow Creek slept peacefully, the bridge standing tall, the resort intact, and the town united. Alex and Mia walked home slowly, knowing that their work had made a lasting impact. The broken bridge had sparked courage planning and a careful release of nature's power. The lesson of fairness, respect, and intelligence had been delivered. Willow Creek had learned that even small actions, guided by care and thought, could challenge arrogance, protect the community, and leave a legacy for future generations. Alex looked at the water one last time before heading home. The lake was calm, the bridge strong, and the town safe. The spirit of Willow Creek had been preserved, and justice had been served. For Alex and Mia, the adventure had ended, but its lessons would last forever. The town had grown stronger, the HOA had learned humility, and the memories of the bridge remained alive. Alex knew that the quiet heroes of Willow Creek had made a difference. And the lake, calm and serene under the moonlight, seemed to whisper its approval. Willow Creek had returned to peace. But the story of courage, intelligence, and careful planning would live on, inspiring generations to respect their town, their neighbors, and the natural world around them. Justice, fairness, and wisdom had triumphed, and the town, the bridge, and the lake were safe for all who called Willow Creek home.